Hey guys, it's DuconRed1 and welcome to episode 7 of Let's Build a Fortified Manor, Chateau de Lumière. We are going to be building the interior to this craftsman's building today, and naturally, a craftsman's building would most likely have craftsman's professions inside. And we are going to have the blacksmith down below and the carpenter on the other side. Now, the carpenter in medieval area was a very important profession. The blacksmith would pretty much make it so that all of this is possible. There's a lot of iron rivets and things like that go into the building of a castle and the maintaining of a castle. Swords, weapons, or weapons in general, armor, tools, everything, even like this lantern, anything that you can think of that would be using any sort of iron would come from the blacksmith. Now, the blacksmith would usually also have an apprentice or helpers in general, so we're going to have to keep that in mind. Same thing with the carpenter. It wouldn't just be that one guy. There would also be others helping him to do all of the side tasks, because it would probably be a pretty busy job here. So the idea is that this is where the smelter is going to be. I've done a general layout of what the new things are going to be, so I just, I kind of have a fill in the blank idea of what's going to happen. In here, we're going to have storage. We're going to have sort of workshop materials, maybe like a table to sharpen up the swords and work on the armor, and a table, something like that. A little bit of storage back here. Not quite sure what we'll do there, but in general, that is the idea. That's where the blacksmith is going to be. So you come up through here. There's going to be two swing gates. There's going to be a swing gate down here, and there's going to be a swing gate back here. I was thinking of portcullis, but it's not really that necessary. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be working on this. The first swing gate is probably going to be about here, so that these murder holes are somewhat effective before them getting through, or the first gate, etc. So then they had to come through, hit the next gate, but then they'd also have to get past these murder holes, stuff like that. So that's the idea behind that. I'm going to build a walkway or a stairway to get up to here, and then a porch right there. And then this porch is going to lead into this room, which is going to be more of a bunk room for the guards. This will be a large area for the guards to sleep and do their thing. I just think that makes the most sense for this room. Wasn't quite sure what else to put in there, so we'll figure that out later on. You'll see that I changed this up right here. I think that's one of the major changes we did between episodes. Is I want this to be the carpenter's workshop, and I didn't want it to be like an entrance into here and be confusing and all that. I want it to be just like this, which I think works. We can put wood storage right here. This is where all like the wood planks and things that would be used for this will be. We'll have like sawhorses in here and work benches and tables. Same thing with up here. And then of course there's this really nice porch around the back, so we're gonna have to figure out the best way to blend that in and make that work. Maybe not have all the flower pots. I think that might be what's causing the issue. But anyways, down here we'll just have some normal things and work stuff. But yeah, that's that idea. I made this stair a little bit wider, and it leads up here, and this leads straight into a storage room. This is right above the blacksmith, so if you go down here, the blacksmith is down there, and we'll go ahead and fill that back in. So then we're going to go up this way. This leads back into the guards room. This is the building above the gate, and then this leads into the stair tower, and this will lead up to here. On the right, we have the room for the blacksmith, and on the left, we have the room for the carpenters. So these are where the masters live. Like the master carpenter would live here, and the master blacksmith would live over here. I think that makes sense because they would probably have their own rooms. Both are very valuable individuals in a castle, and they definitely deserve a pretty substantial residence. They don't deserve like these little tiny rooms with little beds. Like a castle like this would treat their very skilled workers very well. But as far as their apprentices are concerned, they'd probably sleep in the workshop somewhere. So like maybe there'll be like a little room back here where the apprentice can sleep. and, you know, keep watch and do things. And same thing with the blacksmith. We'll probably put the bed for the... Actually, we might even put the apprentices up with the masters. I don't know. That probably wouldn't make sense. Maybe we can just have their beds in here. I don't know. We'll figure that out later on. I think it would make most sense to probably condense them with the other servants. But for the most part, that's the idea. That's what we're going to be doing today, guys. The one thing that I'm kind of unsure about, though, is this room only has this one window right here, which isn't really that bad. And he also has access to 2 balconies, as you can see right here. But this one over here doesn't have any balconies, but has lots of big windows and great views, which makes sense. The blacksmith is more valuable than the carpenter in skills because there's, you know, iron kills people, and yeah, you can't really kill anyone with a wooden sword. So let's go ahead and get started, guys, and let's see what we can come up with. So to start off, we're going to be working on the blacksmith, and the furnace is a very important part of a blacksmith, of course. And so that is, of course, the first thing we are going to do. And I decided to do a 2-sided furnace. I didn't want to do a 1-sided furnace. It's kind of awkward for a diagonal, so we just went ahead and went with that. I wanted to also make this little roofed in section a little bit taller now because of how we did the furnace. I thought it just needed to be a little bit taller, so that's what we did, and in the end it turns out pretty nice. So I really like how that works out. Of course, we're adding in the ground layers. I wanted to add in a little mixture of dirt, that fish scale cobble and stuff like that, and then we want to add in that support for the little roofed in section. So we're going to work on the smelter now. This is where they would smelt the materials. This is where they would take the raw iron or the raw powder iron, and then they would make that into the ingots that they can use to forge. Well, not the refined ingots, but it would be like a very organic, weird looking ingot. So I put the wood underneath the anvil because if you put an anvil on stone, you're gonna crack the stone underneath. However, if you put it on wood, it's like a shock absorber that absorbs the shock every time that you hit the hammer on the anvil, and of course you'd be putting a lot of pressure on that. So that's why we put wood underneath. And of course the furnace needs some fuel, and so we put the firewood right there on the side. I think that turns out pretty nice. Little partition here in between the main road and the blacksmith. I thought that was a good idea because I really wanted to have just something there. I felt like it was too kind of open, and having that little bit of a partition really worked out. So now we're going to head into the blacksmith's workshop in here. As you can see, this is the bellows right there. That's what would blow air into the fire, into the furnace, in order to make it red hot and make it absolutely, the temperature that it needs to be in order to melt the metal and make it into workable material. Because you need some hot stuff. So those bottles over there, like oils and things that they would use to temper the steel. We're making a little workbench right here where they can do the different things they need to do. And then of course scrolls for diagrams, things like that there in the corner. I thought that would be a pretty cool idea to indicate sort of like they are learned individuals. Blacksmiths aren't supposed to be dumb. They have all this stuff, and especially I wanted the Lumiere blacksmith to be very well learned, and he has like all those diagrams and maybe historical data about, documents about how other blacksmiths have done their work. So there we go. There is the blacksmith, and now we're going to head to the other side. We're going to be working now on the carpenter's workshop, which is, again, another craftsman, and it goes in the craftsman's building. It's a pretty important part of a castle because there's a lot of wood in a castle, especially this castle has a lot of wood. And so there's need of a carpenter to repair things, make things, stuff like that. So we start off by building a couple sawhorses right there. Sawhorses are things that hold up the boards so he can easily cut them or carve them, etc. I make that little terrace up there. I felt like that would be a pretty cool idea to add in something a little bit more interesting than just like have it all like the same level inside. And so up here we make the apprentice's room. That there on the right side is where the apprentice would sleep. The master is going to sleep upstairs in a nice fancy room. But the workshop is right here. Got the railings overlooking the actual workshop. Got the all kinds of different things. You got the shelves for different tools. You have the workbench there by the chair. You get the saws. You just kind of try to find the different blocks that sort of complement, that decidedly make this room look like a craftsman's workshop. It's like axes, you got hammers, you got saws, shields, anything that looks like it needs to be crafted or is used to craft wood. Then you use that in order to make your craftsman, your carpenter's workshop, etc. So you just kind of use the block strategically and it will turn out pretty well in the end. So that is the carpenter's workshop. But now we're going to be working on the guard's bunk room up here. This is a fairly important part because this is where a lot of, the extra guards are going to sleep, because we only have room for, I think, I'm going to say about 18 other guards. And so this room will make it so that there's about 27, I think, guards that are able to be stationed in Lumiere at a time, which I think is pretty realistic. So when I was working on this room, I had no idea what I wanted to do. It was like off-centered and it was difficult to work with. So at first I started trying to partition it off, but then I was like, nah, we just made it one big room. And I think that worked out for the best, especially once we get later here in the video. But we're working on the rafters for the ceilings. Rafters, very important. Do not forget rafters. Do not forget the ceiling. That is a seemingly very easy to forget when you're building interiors. Do not forget the ceiling. So instead of using the stone, I decided to use wood. Again, I'm trying that partition, but it just didn't work out. It just did not work out. We just decided to remove that. We're just gonna have this big open room, and I think that, like I said before, works out for the best in the future. Then we have the fireplace there over on the side. We add in some like storage space. We got the different cabinetry, and now I'm deciding, what do I want to do with these beds? I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to make them bunk beds, but in the end, as we all can see, they become bunk beds, which makes sense because there's more room to sleep, and bunk beds usually represent more of a commoner look, whereas if it's just one bed by itself, usually it's a pretty important person that sleeps in that bed because it's only one bed. But so now we're gonna head down to the gates and we're gonna be working on this section. And I wasn't, again, quite sure what I wanted to do here, but we sort of work it out. I think it turns out pretty well, but we do change this later in the video. You'll notice it later on if you watch closely, but I would use wood for like now, but we fix that later. We put some stone up there to support the ceiling. So now these little side chambers in here, they're supposed to be defensive, because this is where the guards can come in and shoot down and in on any enemies that might be coming up the gate. And then we're going to go work on the other side. But in the meantime, while they're not being used for defense, they are used for storage. And so we put stuff in here that sort of represents different things, like here we have a bunch of chairs, and maybe they could be used for like an outdoor event or something, and then they put them into that room for now. So we go in through the front door, and it leads us into the storage room, as represented by that very large sign right there. And so this was pretty easy to do. Storage is rather a spammy thing to do, but I try to organize it somewhat. It's not easy, but it's definitely doable. So just try to organize, put things on shelves, stuff like that. And then the stairs leads up. But now we're going to be working on the master's bedroom, the carpenter master and the master blacksmith. They're going to live up here on the top of this craftsman's building, which I think makes sense. And we make them some pretty fancy rooms, which I like in the end. So I start off with using clay, and I use the dark wood, the dark shaved wood. And so yeah, I use that. It's a pretty good texture. And again, we use the birch and the oak for the ceilings. I like that a lot. And then we start adding in color and detail using the red curtains. I really wanted to make it fancy up here. I really wanted it to be just, you know, not your run-of-the-mill room. I wanted it to be relatively good looking and, you know, comfortable. And so I wanted to make sure that he had a nice bed. He has a mirror. Mirrors are usually pretty expensive things to have during the medieval period, but hey, whatever. It works. It looks good in the room, right? And so he has a nice little sitting space there. He has a little kitchen table to sit over. And I was just, when you're working on things like this, you just think of what they would need to live. You figure out you look at your own living experience and you think about what you would want to have. And what I would want to have is a place to sit, a place to stay warm, a place to look at myself in the mirror, because I just want to see myself, my sexy self every morning when I wake up. Nice little bed, closets and stuff to store their clothes, all kinds of things like that. This little thing there to the left that we're going past right now, that's the garderobe. That's where they do their dirty business in order to make it so that they don't have to do their dirty business in their rooms, which would be rather messy, I would imagine. So anyways, bedtime for the carpenter's room. I just decided to go with the very basic design. Well, not semi-basic design. I think it turned out pretty nicely. And then again, we have the same furnace design as we have the other room, and a little workbench over here for the carpenter. Just like a little private place where he can do little private projects. So anyways, that's that, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on the other side. Alright, well there we go, guys. This is the craftsman's building for Chateau de Lumière. I think it turned out pretty well. However, I will not claim that it is perfect. I do believe that there is still room for improvement. However, I can present this fairly proudly to you guys, and I think that it turned out pretty nice. So we have the blacksmith right here, the forge and the smelter. We have the bellows back here that would be used. The mechanism would be where the blacksmith would pull it right here, and then it would make the bellows work right there. Back here we have like a little storage room for the blacksmith. Thought that would be pretty good. I think that turned out pretty well. But yeah, that's the blacksmith's workshop in here. Lots of different things to be done in here. But specifically for the blacksmith, we got the smelter to smelt the ore into workable iron, and then we have the furnace to make the iron into the different tools that are needed. We have the bucket of water or oil in order to temper the steel and make it so that it is that it won't shatter in battle or shatter in whatever purpose it's being used. That's what oil or tempering it in water after being heated up, that's what it's for. Little workbench over here. I think that's a pretty cool idea. We got a little thing of diagrams back there for all the different weapons and stuff that they would make and stuff like that. So yeah, that is the blacksmith. Pretty cool. But yeah, we come into the gate here. We got 2 swing gates. We got a few murder holes heading in. And then on either side, you got these little rooms where the guards or the defenders can come out and shoot out through these arrow slits or loopholes here on the sides. I think that works out pretty nicely on either side of the gate, and then obviously they'd be used for storage or whatever else that they would be using there. So this right here is the carpenter's workshop. The apprentice would sleep up here. This is where the apprentice would sleep, and then the master, of course, has his own bedroom upstairs. And then a nice little front porch. I think that turned out pretty well. But yeah, this is the carpenter's workshop. I think that turned out pretty nice. A few little sawhorse designs. I think that looks nice. Planks in the side. But that's pretty much that. There's really not too much more to say in here. But yeah, that turned out pretty good. So now we're going to go up the little stairs here, which I like a lot. The little scissor style stairs. And then this heads up to the bunk room up here where maybe servants or even, I would say, guards would sleep up here, and then maybe servants would be up here as well. But yeah, this is more or less a guard's bunk room. They have their own little access to the garderobe. If you guys had watched the last episode, this is the garderobe that leads down to the cesspit below. But that's the idea there. And so they have access to that garderobe as well right there. And then you have like a little place where they're maybe playing some poker, some entertainment and stuff like that. But for the most part, that is that. And you just want to try to figure out what they would need, the space they would need, all kinds of, you know, whatever crazy stuff is needed. You got the chests full of like clothes or whatever is going on there. So we go down into here. This actually comes in through the turret on the front, as you can see here. You go in through here. This leads into the front, like the entrance into the building right here. And then you have a storage room right here where they have a certain rodent infestation that they will have to eradicate someday. But that is that. Now we're gonna head up to the master's bedroom. I thought it was a little awkward that they gotta walk through this bunk room right here, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. I was gonna make a partition here, but it just would have looked too awkward in my opinion. But yeah, for the most part, I think that, I mean, it works. It works. So this right here is the stairwell that leads up to the next floor. We got a little balcony right here, which I like a lot. And this leads into the blacksmith room. You guys will say, oh, that's really extravagant for a blacksmith, but I wanted to make sure that the master craftsmen of Lumiere are treated very well. And so they have their own really fancy rooms up here. And I like how that turned out, especially these furnace designs. I really like that. I didn't just like that one block right there. Didn't like that at all, so we just went with that. And then, yeah, so that's that. Little mirror, windows, cool beans. And we go over here. Nice little chamber pot where they can share, the carpenter and the blacksmith, do their thing right there. And you walk inside here. This is where the bedroom for the carpenter would be. And of course, he has a little workshop here on the side and his bed right there. And a nice little back porch where he can come back out here and sit and enjoy the sun, the morning sun, because that's the east. And that would be the west over there. So yeah, that is Chateau de Lumière so far, guys. By the way, chimneys, the blacksmith's chimney, and the fireplace chimney. Yeah, so that is Chateau de Lumière, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, don't forget to leave a like. I really appreciate those likes. Also, comment below, tell me what you think, and subscribe if you liked it and if you want to see more. I have a Facebook and a Twitter, guys. Definitely go check those out. They are in the description below, where you can follow me and keep up to date with the happenings of Dukan Red 1. And then there is also a Twitch where you can follow me on, where I do live streams and builds, stuff like this. And then there is also a Patreon for those of you that would like to support me monetarily. I'd for sure appreciate your guys' support. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the next video. Till then, bye-bye.